Hey Storystream fam. First off, thank you to everyone who followed The Weight of Innocence. Your support, theories, and energy meant everything. Today, we're kicking off a brand new mystery. Whispers in Room 10. It all starts with a walk-in haircut, a woman on the run, and a chilling message. Don't trust Room 10. If you're new here, welcome. You're just in time for another deep dive into danger, secrets, and twists you won't see coming. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss what happens next. Let's jump in. Whispers in Room 10. Part 1. Whispers behind the chair. They say the salon chair is a confessional. You sit down, the cape goes on, and suddenly you're spilling everything. Cheating spouses, office gossip, your third glass of wine before noon. I've heard it all. I used to think it was the mirror. Something about seeing yourself under fluorescent lights, damp hair clinging to your face like seaweed, makes you want to speak the truth. But now I'm not so sure. Maybe it's just the scissors. People trust the one holding the blade. My name's Dana Moretti. I'm 34, single, and for the past 12 years, I've been cutting hair at Gloss, a sleek little salon tucked between a boutique wine store and a yoga studio on the quieter end of Linden Avenue. We get a mix of regulars, busy moms, low-maintenance tech guys, a couple of bougie Instagram influencers who think I care how many followers they gain this week. I don't. But I smile like I do. Monday mornings are slow. That's why I like them. They give me space to breathe, to prep my station just right. Shears angled perfectly on the rubber mat, combs sterilized and lined up like soldiers. There's something comforting about order. About control. Morning D, called Monique from the front desk. She was halfway through her iced latte, typing with one hand and painting her nails with the other. She was the only person I knew who could make chaos look efficient. Morning, I replied, flicking on my station light. The salon smelled like eucalyptus and hairspray, a weirdly soothing combination. Anyone on the books? She scanned her screen. Just Barb at 10 and 2 walk-ins. Probably dead till lunch. Perfect. Barb Jensen arrived exactly on time, like always. A retired school principal, she wore her punctuality like a badge of honor. I liked Barb. She was easy, short bob, no drama, paid cash. We chatted about her dog, her garden, the weather. The usual. You ever think about leaving? She asked suddenly, as I trimmed the back of her neck. The city, I mean. I blinked. Not really. Why? She shrugged. You just seem too sharp for this place. Like you've got more going on than you let on. I gave a small laugh. You make it sound like I'm undercover. Barb smiled, but didn't answer. After she left, I wiped down my chair, humming along to whatever indie playlist Monique had on. I liked the rhythm of this job. Clean, cut, sweep, repeat. The noise of the world softened inside these walls. Blow dryers, small talk, the occasional sharp snip of shears. Nothing dangerous. Nothing real. By noon, both walk-ins had come and gone. One was a teenage boy who smelled like Axe body spray and panic. The other was a middle-aged woman getting a last-minute trim before a job interview. Neither stayed long. I was halfway through reorganizing the back shelf when I saw her. She walked in like she was being chased, though she tried to hide it. Tall, thin, pale. Blonde hair, too perfect to be real, tucked under a beige knit beanie. Her eyes flicked across the salon like a security camera. Monique raised an eyebrow. Can I help you? Walk in? The woman asked, voice tight. Just a quick cut. I stepped forward. I can take you. She hesitated, then nodded. Thanks. She didn't offer a name, so I didn't ask. I just gestured to the chair and smiled like I always do. What are we doing today? Shorter, she said, tugging at her beanie. Underneath was a mess of tangled platinum. Just make it different. I sprayed her hair down and began combing, trying to ignore how her eyes kept darting to the door. Her fingers were clenched in her lap, nails bitten raw. Not nervous energy. This was something else. So, I said casually, new look for a new chapter? She flinched. Just slightly. But I noticed. Something like that, she muttered. We fell into silence. I cut slowly, methodically. Layers. Nothing too drastic. The kind of transformation you could hide behind. Midway through, her phone buzzed in her pocket. Don't answer, she whispered. Not to me. To herself. But she did anyway. She didn't say hello. Just pressed it to her ear and listened. Her face went pale. No, she whispered. I said not here. This isn't safe. My hands froze. The scissors hovered an inch from her neck. I told you they'd find out. I told you not to. She stopped. Her eyes flicked to the mirror, locking on mine. I looked away, pretending I hadn't heard. I snipped the next section too quickly, and she flinched. She hung up without another word. The rest of the cut passed in silence. When it was done, she stood abruptly and shoved cash into my hand. Keep the change, she muttered, grabbing her beanie and pushing through the door. I watched her disappear down the street. And then I looked at the money in my hand. 2 20s and a note, folded between them. My stomach dropped. I didn't open it right away. But I knew. I just cut more than hair today. I didn't open the note until the salon emptied out. It was late afternoon when I finally pulled it from my apron pocket. I'd read it a dozen times already in my head, imagining what it could say. A thank you? A cry for help? A threat? I didn't know what I was expecting. Maybe some neat cursive scrawl, lipstick on the edge like in the movies. But it wasn't that kind of note. Just 4 words. Jagged handwriting. All caps, like the writer hadn't had time to think, only react. Don't trust room 10. That was it. No name. No number. No signature. I stared at the words until they blurred. Then I folded it back up and tucked it into my wallet, between my expired CPR card and a receipt from Thai House. Room 10. What did that even mean? A hotel? A hospital? Some kind of code? Monique glanced over at me from the front. You good, Dee? You've been staring into space for, 10 minutes. Want me to light some sage or something? I smiled. Just tired. Long day. She snorted. It's Monday. Nobody's ever tired on Monday unless they made bad decisions on Sunday. I wanted to tell her about the woman. About the note. About the way her hands had trembled under the cape. How her voice had cracked on the phone like someone was holding her underwater. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the look in her eyes when we'd locked gazes in the mirror. The silent plea. Or maybe it was instinct, the kind that curls around your spine like cold wire. Whatever it was, I knew this wasn't something I could just casually share over the front desk. By closing time, I still couldn't shake the feeling she'd left something behind that wasn't just ink on paper. The next morning, I got to the salon early. Earlier than usual. I told myself I just wanted to restock my station. Maybe deep clean the shears like I'd been meaning to. But the truth was, I wanted to check the cameras. Technically, only the owner, Ray, had access. But Monique had once shown me the app he used, and his password was the same as his cat's name, Bruno44. I guess he figured no one would care enough to hack into a boring salon security feed. He was mostly right. I pulled out my phone, opened the app, and scrolled back to yesterday at noon. There she was. Walking in, glancing behind her, eyes sharp. Even through the grainy footage, she looked like she was listening for footsteps that hadn't yet caught up. She sat in my chair. I hit pause. Zooming in on her face didn't help. No recognition. Just fear. I skipped to the part where she answered her phone. I watched her mouth move, but there was no sound on the feed. Only silent shapes and a flick of her eyes toward the mirror. That was the moment I froze. And then she left. I rewinded and played it again. Still no answers. Just a strange woman who walked in, dropped a cryptic message, and vanished. By noon, I'd convinced myself to let it go. People act weird all the time. Maybe room 10 was some kind of metaphor. Maybe she was in trouble, but not the kind I could fix. I wasn't a detective. I was just a stylist with a good ear and a sharp pair of scissors. But fate has a twisted sense of humor. Because that afternoon, room 10 walked in. Or rather, someone who would make the words room 10 take on a whole new shape in my mind. Hi, the man said, stepping inside, eyes scanning the salon like he was sizing us all up. Walk in. Just need a clean-up. I nodded slowly. Sure. Come on back. He was tall, stocky, with a military-style fade that hadn't been touched in weeks. His clothes were neat, but his eyes, those were the problem. Too flat. Too calm. The kind of calm that isn't real. He sat down and smiled at me through the mirror. Name's Greg. I returned the smile. Dana. As I draped the cape over him, I caught a glimpse of a small tattoo behind his ear. A number. 10. It was almost 2 on the nose. Same cut as before? I asked, feigning casual. He shrugged. Shorter's fine. Clean around the edges. I started with the clippers, keeping the conversation light. But he didn't offer much. No job talk, no small complaints about the weather or parking. Just silence and that eerie smile. Halfway through, I asked, You from around here? Sort of, he said. Just checking in on some things. My heart thumped. Checking in? On what? And you? He asked suddenly. Been here long. Couple years. Comfortable job. You must hear a lot. People talk. It's part of the job. He chuckled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Bet you hear things you're not supposed to. My hands didn't stop, but my grip tightened slightly. Sometimes, I said, blowing hair off the back of his neck. But I try not to listen. He gave me that look again in the mirror, like he could see through me. Well, he said, standing as I unclipped the cape, if you ever do hear something dangerous, it's best to pretend you didn't. I froze. He dropped a 20 on the counter and walked out. Didn't even ask for change. By the time I swept up the hair from his cut, my hands were shaking. I found another note tucked under the counter. This one wasn't handwritten. It was typed. Crisp. Clean. We warned you. It wasn't just the message, we warned you. It was the way it was delivered. Not a scrap of paper crumpled in a sweaty palm. This one was clinical, printed on stark white cardstock like it had been run through an office printer somewhere cold and impersonal. No typos. No smudges. No fingerprints. That morning, I stared at it longer than I meant to, holding it between my fingers like it might burn. By noon, I had it folded and zipped into a makeup bag in the back of my station. I told myself I was overreacting. People joke around. Maybe it was some creepy prank by Greg, the guy with the tattoo behind his ear. Maybe he was just messing with me because he could tell I was rattled. But the truth itched under my skin. This wasn't a prank. It was a message. A threat. I tried to act normal. Clients came and went. An older woman with a color correction disaster, a teenage girl getting bangs for the first time, a man who insisted on a hard part, but flinched every time I got near his temple. Normal problems. Tangible ones. But my eyes kept drifting to the front door, waiting for something. Someone to come through it. And then, of course, she returned. Just past 3 o'clock, as I was finishing up a dry cut on a regular, the bell above the salon door chimed. I glanced up, and my breath caught in my throat. It was her. Same beanie. Same eyes. Same too perfect hair, now shortened into the blunt cut I'd given her the day before. But this time she looked worse. Tired. Thinner. The kind of thinner that happens overnight. Stress thin. She didn't walk straight to the front desk. She hovered in the entrance, scanning the space like she expected it to be rigged. I muttered something to my client about running to the back and made my way toward her. You're not supposed to come back, I said quietly, standing between her and the rest of the salon. Someone was here. Someone who knew. She stared at me, and I saw it in her eyes again, that same wild flicker of fear. I know, she whispered. I shouldn't have. But I didn't have a choice. You left a note. Room 10? What does that mean? She looked around, leaning in. It's not a room. It's a code. A designation. There are places, organizations, where people don't have names. Just numbers. Levels. I was in one. Or maybe I still am. I don't know anymore. What are you talking about? She didn't answer. Just pulled something from her coat. A small flash drive, no label, no keyring. She shoved it into my hand. If anything happens to me, don't take it to the police. They're already compromised. My hand closed around the drive. Who are you? But she was already backing away. Just, don't trust anyone. And if someone comes asking questions, tell them you never saw me again. With that, she turned and walked out. This time, I didn't stop her. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept the flash drive in a mason jar under my sink, like that would somehow keep it safe. I didn't plug it in. I didn't dare. I barely even looked at it. My thoughts raced in loops. Room 10, number tattoos, fake names, that flat, quiet threat from Greg. I kept replaying the sentence in my head. If you ever do hear something dangerous, it's best to pretend you didn't. Was that what this was? Had I overheard something dangerous? Or was I just part of it now? The next morning, I walked into the salon early again. I opened up alone, turned on the lights, brewed the coffee no one ever drank, and stood in front of my station like it might give me answers. Instead, it gave me a voice. Well, if it isn't the most popular chair in the room. I turned. It was Greg. Again. He wasn't smiling this time. Didn't expect to see you back so soon, I said, masking my nerves by adjusting my shears. He walked in slowly, eyes scanning the salon the same way hers had. Only slower. Calculated. Had a follow-up question. About your haircut? No, he said simply. About the woman from yesterday. Blonde. Beanie. Cut by you. I went cold. I'm not sure I remember, I said. Greg's gaze was steady. People like you always remember. Stylists. Bartenders. Cab drivers. You see everything. You just pretend not to. I forced a smile. She didn't give a name. Walk in. Paid cash. He stepped closer. Did she say anything? I shook my head. Not really. Just wanted a change. Did she leave anything? No. We stood in silence, the only sound the faint hum of the blow dryer Monique had left plugged in overnight. Greg gave a long, slow nod, then leaned down to pick up a magazine from the waiting area. People. Dated 6 months ago. You know, he said, flipping through it without looking. Sometimes when people hear things they shouldn't, they think it makes them important. Special. He dropped the magazine back on the table. But it usually just makes them disappear. He walked out without another word. That night, I sat in my car outside the salon for almost an hour. The streets were quiet, the street lamps humming. I stared at the front door, the windows, the faint reflection of myself in the windshield. Eventually, I started the engine. But I didn't drive home. I drove to a public library. I borrowed a laptop. And I plugged in the flash drive. The library was nearly empty, just how I needed it. I chose a corner workstation near the window, away from the security desk and out of the eye line of the lone librarian who was too busy restocking romance novels to pay attention to me. The overhead lights buzzed faintly, and the keyboard felt sticky, but it didn't matter. All I could focus on was the flash drive burning a hole in my coat pocket. I slid it into the USB port. For a second, nothing happened. Then a folder popped up on the screen. Room 10 under secure and files. No password prompt. No encryption. Either she'd wanted me to see this, or she hadn't had time to lock it down. I opened the folder and found a list of files. Half were PDFs, the other half were short video clips. Some had labels like intake under log under 14.pdf, or CAM under RM10 under 12a.movie. Others were just strings of numbers and dates. I clicked on the first video file. At first, it looked like grainy security footage. An overhead view of a dimly lit room, maybe 10 by 12 feet. No windows. One metal chair in the center. One person seated. Another standing over them. The person in the chair had a hood over their head. Then the standing figure stepped closer. They removed the hood. It was the woman. The one from my salon. Only she looked different. Calmer. Composed. Her hair was longer. Her face held none of the panic I'd seen just a day ago. In fact, she looked more like the other version of her. The one Greg was probably chasing. The version she was running from. The audio was muffled, but I could make out fragments. Confirmation protocol. Room 10 candidate. Risk factors elevated. The footage cut out. I clicked on a PDF next. A profile sheet. No photo, just basic data fields. Redacted names. Codes. A field marked, clearance, LVL10. Another marked, compromise risk, critical. Next to it, subject flagged for termination. I sat back in the chair, throat tight. This wasn't some office drama or a personal secret someone whispered mid-shampoo. This was an operation. A facility. And she had been part of it. Or trapped in it. And now, maybe so was I. I skimmed through 3 more documents. Logs of people, transferred, flagged, disappeared. Some with notes scribbled in the margins. A few even mentioned a city. Caraway, our city. I froze at one line in a document labeled, Subject Transfer Requests, Q1. Civilian ID, Moretti.d, flagged. Exposure potential high if incident not contained. That was my name. That was me. I closed the folder. Unplugged the drive. Slipped it back in my coat. And then I vomited in the library bathroom. The next day at Gloss, everything looked the same. Felt the same. But I wasn't. Monique noticed. You're acting weird. I gave her a tight smile. Didn't sleep. You should try melatonin and not living in a constant state of low-key anxiety. Thanks for the diagnosis, Dr. Phil. Anytime. I was halfway through a trim on a regular when I caught the reflection in the mirror. Not the client. Behind her. Outside. Across the street. A parked car. Same one from the day before. Black sedan. Tinted windows. It had been there when I arrived this morning. Still there now. Was it watching me? Or waiting? I finished the cut, hands steady only because I'd trained them to be. Inside, I was a mess of cracked glass. That afternoon, I stepped outside under the excuse of taking the trash out. As I dragged the bin around the back, I spotted the car again, still parked. Still idling. But now, someone was standing next to it. Not Greg. Someone else. A woman, mid-40s. Tan coat. No expression. She was holding something. A small walkie. She raised it to her mouth, said something, then turned and stared right at me. I dropped the trash bag and went back inside. I didn't tell Monique. Didn't call the police. Didn't even text a friend. Because how could I explain this? Hey, I think I'm being stalked by people from a secret government room with numbered agents and blackmail files. Because a woman with perfect highlights gave me a flash drive and a nervous breakdown. No one would believe me. So I did what I knew best. I cleaned my station. I cut hair. I listened. And that's when I heard it. A voice, 2 chairs down. One of our stylists, Talia, was chatting with her client, a chatty middle-aged woman who came in every 2 weeks for a perm and always talked too loudly. Said her sister was working with some research thing down in Caraway, but then she just vanished. No calls. Nothing. Police didn't even follow up. Can you believe that? Talia offered some generic response, but my ears were ringing. Vanished. Research. Caraway. It couldn't be coincidence. I caught the woman's eyes in the mirror. She smiled politely, not realizing the spark of panic she'd just reignited. I turned away before she could ask why I looked like I'd seen a ghost. That night, I sat in bed with the flash drive next to me like it was a gun I didn't know how to use. I hadn't gone back to the library. Too risky. Too open. Instead, I watched through my window. The same black car cruised past once. Then again. I didn't know what was coming next. But I had a feeling the scissors in my hand wouldn't be enough. By Thursday morning, I was done pretending everything was fine. The black car hadn't returned, at least not visibly, but I had the sense that someone else was watching. I felt it when I bent to sweep hair. When I stood behind clients and made small talk about prom photos and wedding colors. I felt it in my bones, like heat rising before a fever. I hadn't slept more than a few hours in days. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her. Beanie Girl, with that haunted expression and the words, "Don't trust room 10, echoing in my ears like a warning siren. I needed help. But not from the police. And not from Monique. I didn't want to pull anyone else into this. If that flash drive was even half as damning as it seemed, then anyone I talked to became a target. I could still hear Greg's voice from 2 days ago. It usually just makes them disappear. Instead, I made an appointment. Not with a stylist. Not with a friend. With him. I hadn't seen Marcus in over a year. Not since we'd broken up over something so stupid I couldn't even remember what it was now. He was a freelance IT guy. Did cybersecurity gigs for private firms and government contractors. He knew how to bypass locked files, trace metadata, clean systems. He also had a nose for BS, which made this feel 10 times more terrifying. But if anyone could make sense of what I had, it was him. When I texted him out of the blue, "Need help. Tech stuff. Not a joke." He called me within 3 minutes. "Is this about your Netflix password again?" "No," I said, then lowered my voice. "It's serious." There was a pause. "Where?" "Somewhere public. But not too public." "Got it." We met that evening at a 24-hour diner just off the interstate, the kind of place with cracked vinyl booths and a jukebox that hadn't worked since 2003. It was quiet, dim, and the waitress looked half asleep, which was exactly what I wanted. Marcus looked the same, tall, disheveled, permanently on the edge of needing a haircut. He slid into the booth across from me and eyed the manila envelope I had clutched in both hands. "I'm guessing that's not a resume." I handed it over silently. Inside was a cheap USB drive. Not the original. I'd copied everything from the real one onto a decoy earlier that afternoon. Just in case. Marcus plugged it into his laptop and started scrolling. "You didn't watch all of these?" he asked after a minute. "Some. Enough to be scared." His brow furrowed. "This looks like surveillance footage." "It is." "Of what?" "I think a covert facility. Or something close. Look at the files marked Room 10. He clicked through several PDFs, frowning deeper as he read. "This isn't amateur," he muttered. "This is structured. Government-style metadata. Military-grade folder protocols. Jesus, Dana." He glanced up at me, the smart-ass twinkle in his eye gone. "Where the hell did you get this?" "A client. She dropped it. On purpose." He leaned back in his seat and exhaled hard. "You're in the middle of something huge." "You think?" "I'm serious. If half of this is real, and from what I'm seeing, it sure looks that way, this isn't just surveillance. These are human experiments. Classified identifications. I even saw a civilian risk elimination protocol buried in that last doc." My stomach turned. I saw my name in one of the files. That got his full attention. "What?" "They flagged me. Exposure potential." "Have you gone to the police?" "No." She said not to. Said they were compromised. He nodded slowly. "Smart woman." I flinched. "I don't know if she's alive." He tapped the side of the laptop. "If she is, these files might be her insurance. And you're now holding them. Which makes you the backup plan." "I never asked for this." "Doesn't matter. You've got it." There was a long silence as the waitress dropped off 2 coffees and didn't bother asking if we needed menus. Marcus lowered his voice. "You need to disappear for a bit." I shook my head. "I can't just leave. I have a business. A life. Clients. They'll live. You won't." That hung between us. He looked back at the screen, clicked open one last video. We both froze. It was Greg. In the room. Talking to someone behind the camera. Clean-up protocol on subject E. Civilian contact suspected. She may have made a transfer. A beat of silence. Then, "We're monitoring the stylist. Moretti. Dana. If she talks, we proceed with level 10 erasure." Marcus slammed the laptop shut. My blood went cold. "They're watching you," he said quietly. "Probably your phone. Maybe your apartment. Do you even lock your salon after hours?" "Yes. Not enough. You need to destroy the original drive." "Nah. This decoy's fine for me to scrub and trace back without leading them straight to you, but if they find the source..." "I hid it under my bathroom sink." He stared at me. "Dana." I suddenly felt childish. Naive. Like a kid playing spy games who just realized the bullets were real. "I'll destroy it," I said. "Tonight. You need to be gone by morning." "I can't." "You have to." His voice was firmer now. No longer advice. An order. I looked around the diner. The tired waitress. The flickering neon sign. For a second, I could almost pretend it was just another weird night out. But it wasn't. Later, as I drove back toward my apartment, I realized I wasn't alone. 2 cars behind. Same black sedan. And this time, it wasn't idling. It was following me. The black sedan didn't trail too closely. Just enough that I could see its silhouette in my rear view, unwavering. Cold. Patient. I took 3 unnecessary turns. It stayed with me. My knuckles tightened on the steering wheel as I pulled off Main and turned down Bramble Street. Quiet, residential, dark. 1 street lamp flickered overhead like it was warning me. Or counting down. I parked half a block from my apartment. The sedan rolled past. Didn't stop. Didn't slow. But it knew. I was sure of it. That wasn't a loss. That was a setup. A psychological play. Let her think she's safe. Let her lower her guard. I sprinted inside and bolted the door behind me. First thing I did? Retrieve the original flash drive from under the sink, wrapped in a sandwich bag tucked behind an empty bottle of Windex. I held it in my hand for a long time. It felt heavier than it should have, like it had absorbed all my fear, all my questions. Then I snapped it in 2. The plastic casing cracked in my grip, the USB connector bending like a bone. I tossed the pieces into the garbage disposal and flipped the switch. The machine growled, chewing it down with a satisfying crunch that I hoped was symbolic. I didn't feel safer. I slept with a knife under my pillow. Not exactly my proudest survival tactic, but I wasn't thinking rationally anymore. Logic had left the building the moment I saw my name in those files. At some point around 2 a.m., I drifted off. Not into rest, into a shallow twitchy haze of half-dreams and mental alarms. Then the hallway floor creaked. Not in a building-settling way. No. This was deliberate. Weighted. Near my bedroom. I sat upright, blood turning to ice. Knife. Pillow. I had maybe 2 seconds. Another step. I launched myself out of bed, heart hammering, and yanked open the closet door. Empty. Another creak. This one was closer. Inside the apartment. I held my breath. The air felt electrified, every molecule screaming. Run. Suddenly, the hallway light flared on. And then, nothing. Just stillness. I stepped into the hall slowly, knife raised. The front door was locked. The window above the kitchen sink. Shut. Then I saw it. My laptop. It was on. Open. It had been off before I went to bed. I moved toward it, cautiously, like it might explode. The screen was glowing with a single line of text in a blank Word document. "We warned you. This is your only one." That's when I noticed the camera light. Green. Lit. Someone had been watching. I slammed it shut and threw it across the couch. And then I vomited, again, because my body didn't know what else to do. I didn't go to Gloss the next morning. I called Monique and told her I had food poisoning. She joked about bad sushi and told me to rest up. I wanted to tell her everything. But I didn't. Instead, I packed a small bag. Just clothes. Cash. Burner phone. I'd meet up with Marcus again tonight. Figure out next steps. Maybe leave town for a bit. But first, I needed to stop by the salon. There was something in the back room I couldn't leave behind. It was just past noon when I pulled up to Gloss. Everything looked normal. The bell above the door jingled as I stepped inside. The usual buzz of dryers, the hum of gossip, the sharp, chemical scent of bleach and hairspray. But then I noticed the silence. Monique wasn't at her chair. No clients. No stylists. Just one figure standing at the reception desk. Greg. He turned slowly when he heard the door close behind me. "Dana," he said, smiling like we were old friends catching up. Every part of me tensed. "What are you doing here?" "Just checking in," he said casually. Too casually. "Heard you weren't feeling well. Thought I'd say hello." I didn't respond. My eyes scanned the room, hunting for exits. Monique's scissors were still laid out neatly. Her coffee cup sat half-finished on her counter. But she wasn't here. "Where's Monique?" I asked, voice tighter than I wanted. "She stepped out." He smiled again. She won't be long. Every nerve in my body screamed lie. I just need to grab something from the back, I said, inching toward the hallway. Greg moved, blocking me casually. Actually, before you do that, there's something I wanted to ask you. My pulse roared in my ears. What? Did she give you anything? He asked, and the smile disappeared. The woman. The one from last week. The one who never paid. I hesitated. Why? His voice dropped to a near whisper. Because if she did, it'll be your last mistake. And then everything happened at once. A crash from the back room. A shout. Greg spun, distracted. I ran. I didn't think. I just moved. I ducked behind the product shelf, grabbed Monique's shears, and bolted for the rear hallway. Someone else was there. Another man in a black jacket, reaching for something on his belt. I didn't stop to find out what. I ran through the break room, shoved open the back door, and tore through the alley behind the building. Breath ragged. Legs screaming. Footsteps behind me. I didn't look back. Not until I reached the other side of the block and ducked into the corner laundromat. Only then did I turn, and see no one. I waited in the bathroom for what felt like an hour. Then I opened my burner phone. One new message. Blocked number. They know everything. You're not safe. If you want to live, meet me tonight. 9 p.m. The tunnel under Park and Elm. Come alone. There was no name. But I knew who it was. Beanie Girl. She was alive. And she wanted to meet. I didn't know if it was a trap. A rescue. A final warning. But I knew I'd go. Because the cut was already too deep. And someone was about to bleed. And that's the beginning of our brand new series, Whispers in Room 10. If you're already hooked on the mystery, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens next. Because this story only gets stranger from here. Got any theories or thoughts about what is about to go down? Drop them in the comments. We're reading them all. And if you want bonus content in a shorter form like Reels, please give us a follow on Instagram at Storystream. Thanks for jumping into this new mystery with us. The whispers are only getting louder.